Welcome to Captive Conversations. I am your host, Adam from Captive Wi-Fi. Join us as we dive into behind-the-scenes stories of hospitality leaders, exploring tech, operations, marketing through the eyes of the experts. Let's get the inside scoop together. Today, I had the honour and privilege of meeting or interviewing Scot Turner from Auden Hospitality. I've known Scot for about 6-7 years, worked on many different projects with him. I had a long chat with him about discussing the journey into hospitality, where it came from, where Auden came from, which is actually a really interesting story, the name. We talked about where his background started from hotels, why F&B, his journey into leaving the country and going to Dubai, packing up, and working there for about 5 years. We talked about coming back. We talked about F&B in hotels, the challenges, really interesting conversations. Really interesting story, really interesting pieces and little nuggets of genius. So do listen. I am going to snip some of it out to go online. There is a video version. This is the podcast version that also goes on video. This is episode 3. This is Captive Conversations. This is Scot Turner from Auden Hospitality. And less technology challenges this time. Let's get going. Am I ready? Right. Okay. Volume's okay. Sounds good. Audio sounds a lot better than what we hear. That's so fine. That's the most important thing. You definitely had a podcasting voice because you've got the calm and...
Well, I'm a bit croaky today as well.
Are you? Yeah. Okay, so I could try and stay like that, but it's not going to happen.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so I feel like I'm at therapy. Like, it's okay, Adam.
You need to get this branded.
Yeah, I keep being told by people that, I'll give you a podcast cover. I'm like, I don't want their logo on this. So I'm good, thanks. Cheers. Okay, so welcome to episode 3. Oh gosh, that sounded a bit weird. Episode 3, Scot Turner, Auden Hospitality. I'll do another intro later.
That's fine.
There's no intro here. Don't do it. But there seems to be a trend because people like listening to the intro. So I'm going to do a little bit of the intro now. So are you ready?
Let's do it.
We'll do a little bit boogie at the same time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's all you get. You don't get any more. Okay, welcome everyone. Scot Turner from Auden Hospitality.
Oh, it's the first time I've been clapped for a while.
There you go. Claps. A little bit of claps. So welcome, Scot. Welcome to the Captive Conversations couch, I guess. It looks a lot nicer this side than that side, but we're not going to show you that side, so it's okay. And I forget that people don't always listen to the video. And I had a chat with someone today that was like, you keep saying you can see, but I only listened to it on my headset. So I've got to remember to tell people who aren't listening to look at the video.
Do you know, the funniest podcast I ever listened to like that was Stephen Bartlett, and he did it with the American guy from Zoe.
Yeah.
I think it was him. And they were talking about poo. And they were talking about like the different Bristols while you were listening, and they were being really graphic about the poo. And it was a bit like, oh, okay, well, this isn't one for audio. I'm going to have to go check it back out.
And did you check the video out?
No, I haven't. No, still don't know what a Bristol 7 is. Anyway, I'm pleased. Do you know, after all these times of working together,
I know,
probably 7-8 years, I've never been here before.
You've never been to my office?
No. So there you go. It's brought us down to the office. It's cool.
I got him here. I got him to the office. It's always been, I'll pop in. Got too busy.
Never. Too busy. That's true.
Now you are too busy. So Scot actually has his own podcast called Hospitality Huddles. What number were you on the charts?
Oh, do you know? 20. I'm going to say 28, but I think it might have been 26.
That's
like I'm going to say 28 out of 40.
That's pretty awesome, to be fair.
Yeah,
Scot has a lot more time than I do putting content on, and I think he's not in a bad way. If it's in a good way. I just you're obviously doing a million different things, but you have time to put good content out, which is nice. So, I feel like you've got a little robot in the background just doing it all for you. But it's just, you're doing all of that, right?
I do all my personal stuff.
Yeah.
And I do the recordings of the podcast and the edits of the podcast. I'll be honest, I don't do the rest. So I don't do the blogs. I don't do the Auden content and stuff like that. Someone else does that as part of the team. But the personal ones always felt like it should be personal.
I like it. Yeah.
So having someone else writing in my tone of voice just doesn't, I don't know.
So you get someone to do the Auden stuff and then the stuff from you. Okay, that's nice. You have two different tones of voice.
Exactly. And sometimes people, the guys, the team is someone who sits in the team, but sometimes those people take stuff that I've done on my content and repurpose it for Auden. So it's not like it's completely away from what I am, but it's just too much otherwise. Like you were saying, it's a lot to do. And people don't understand how much work goes into podcasts.
I'm figuring that out now.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like making time to interview, doing the prep beforehand, then you've got the edits.
Letting your staff have lunch in this area before you do it?
Quickly tidying up. Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't have those problems, but it's very rewarding because the people you meet is phenomenal.
Okay, really. I'm digressing because we're already deep. Okay, we're already diving in. So there were two questions from LP from Redcap. One of them was service levels in the UK versus other countries or other areas. You've got a good thing for that. The other question, which I can't answer because he gave me a Tim Tam and it was sitting just here, and one of my very hungry staff members saw it and finished it. So the question for that one was Tim Tams versus penguins. But let's do the first question: service levels in the UK versus. Well, no, for you, it's UAE because you were there for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, we work in Europe as well. We do some stuff in Asia as well. And I spent a lot of time in Australia, actually, over Christmas and New Year. I think, do you know what? I think there's different challenges in different countries, isn't there? Like if I take my time in the UAE versus the UK, the team, once you got them to a level, were like nothing else, but they were coming from countries and backgrounds that didn't necessarily know what great hospitality was or how to do certain concepts. So I always remember we did this British pub in Dubai, right? Our team were Filipino and Indian, Sri Lankan, some guys from Nepal. It was called Reform Social and Grill. Still there today.
Is there one here?
There's one in London as well.
It's still here.
So I'll never forget when that venue opened, we had a chef called Ryan Waddell. He was Scottish. Trying to teach a Filipino how to make a Yorkshire pudding was hilarious because these guys just couldn't work out why it was so different to a pancake, even though the mix is fairly similar to a pancake, right? So it was just so funny about how the process you went through. And then everything we kind of take for granted, these guys didn't really know. So you're having to teach them. Here in the UK, you're having to do something very different in that, I guess the new workforce coming through, definitely not as skilled as maybe what they were in our day, in the good old days. And they're motivated very different. So I think you have to adjust kind of what we've done probably post-pandemic. Although I would say when I started coming back to London in 2018, I started to see a change in the workforce in that I was coming from an environment that was quite subservient, coming back to the UK, and I'd be saying to people, we need to mop the floor or clean the toilets or something, and they'd almost look at you in disgust as if to go, why would we clean the floor? And you're having to almost convince them why rather than kind of say. So I'm rabbiting on this one. My thing would be, I don't think there's a lot of difference in terms of service levels between UK and anywhere else. I think we just have to work differently to get there.
Okay, I get that.
Is that a good answer?
That's a good answer. I think that's okay. I think everyone's experience is different. I think LP's experience was different here. I think Australia's a much larger space. And I also said to him that he didn't take my recommendation. So, if he comes next time up, I'll take him for dinner and he'll be like blown away at the...
But saying that, in his defence, I just mentioned, right, I spent 4 weeks in Adelaide, Sydney, Brisbane.
Go on.
While I was in Australia. And service there is fantastic.
Is it?
and the people who are serving there see it as careers, which is probably the biggest difference to the UK. And everywhere you went, you get amazing coffee. There's amazing concepts. There's great stories, and I can understand why you would come to the UK, probably go to the wrong places and go, "What is this?"
Yeah.
So I get it because I've been there and seen it.
I guess if you're directed to the right places, you'll feel the same. So I guess. Okay, so the second question, as I mentioned, was about Tim Tams versus penguins, and that's a pretty easy one for you, right?
No brainer.
Okay.
Tim Tam. Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, which flavour did he bring for a start?
Just a chocolatey one.
Yeah, he made a mistake. He should have brought the salted caramel. Honestly.
This is such a disappointment. I seriously thought you'd be a penguin man. The boys in your office were like penguin all the way.
Really?
Yeah. I grew up on penguins, but
they're a bit bigger.
Yeah.
They're a bit bigger. So if you're on your lunch break, your tea break, I can understand why a penguin, because you have to have 2 Tim Tams, you can't just have one. But he brought the wrong one. So that's his. Okay. That's not back to the whole thing about him going to the wrong place in UK hospitality.
Yeah, he brought me the wrong stuff.
He brought you the wrong stuff.
Okay.
If I've still got some at home, I'll bring some in next time.
Yes, please.
I might still have some stashed. But my 6-year-old really likes them, so probably not, to be fair.
Okay, back to questions. So this is going to be the first set of questions. Let's hope we start. It could be anywhere. Yep. So best burger anywhere. Best burger.
I'm gonna give you a London-centric one, and then I'm going to give you a rest of the world one.
Okay.
London-centric, I don't think you can beat patty and bun.
Really?
Yeah, especially for the lunch offer that they've got.
Is it for the offer or is it for the burger?
No, I think the quality you get for the price you pay is outstanding. If I had to go for a number 2, I'd go Five Guys. And I'm sorry, but I love a good Five Guys. Now, moving on to something more interesting, which is somewhere else. There's a place in Paris called Junk Burger, and it's smash burgers, and they are phenomenal.
Okay.
So if you're ever nipping across to Paris, check out Junk Burger. It's amazing. So really, really cool.
Would you prefer a smash burger or a burger?
Oh, I prefer a smash burger, I think.
Okay. Have you tried the Supernova yet?
No.
Okay. You're in queue for 40 minutes and so.
No, exactly. No.
Okay, so then we go on to tea into next best restaurant, which is an interesting conversation as well. You can give me one or two. You don't need to go into the story. You can just...
It's a hard one, this. Okay, there's one in Sydney called Ezra, and it's 2 guys who moved back to Sydney in the pandemic after working at Palomar, and it's Israeli focused, and it was sensational. Okay. And I didn't know it, and I texted Michelle Moreno, who we both know, and I was like, I'm in this place in Sydney, it's amazing. One of her friends had told me to go. I was like, God, it's as good as Palomar or Barbary. Yeah. And she was like, yeah, no kidding. And it was 2 by 2 the guys. So Ezra, but if people aren't going all the way over to Sydney anytime soon, I think, here, I think Bubala, I think what they do.
Bubala.
Really?
Bubala. It's like a grandma. Bubala.
Oh, shit. Okay.
That's right.
So I've been saying it wrong all these times to people, which is a bit embarrassing. Edit that out.
No, it's all going through. Bubala.
Bubala.
It's like a grandma. Bubala.
Bubala. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
They're excellent.
You're my bubala.
They're excellent. I really love those guys. Yeah. And then...
they should have it in phonetics.
They should do, really. Yeah. So it's their fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, good save.
Listen to
good
that, Bubala. I'm going to get a message from them saying, no, it's actually...
It's actually the Bubala. Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. Anyway, I'm going to tell those guys.
Okay.
Best hotel, it's not like Top Jar, is it? We can go self-noms,
You can go, of course. You
awesome. All right, there's a place where I used to work in Ascot called Coworth Park, part of the Dorchester collection.
Is that Coworth Park or Coworth Park?
No, it's definitely Coworth.
Coworth.
I worked there. And got married there, funnily enough.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I went back on there.
It's very pretty.
Mates
rates. Got married in Mates rates.
I'm from Yorkshire, yes, I just remember that. No, honestly, stunning hotel, and it's busy. Yeah. It's spread over 240 acres, and how those guys deliver extreme luxury at volume over a massive space is phenomenal. So
they've got hotel, spa, golf course, all the usual stuff, right?
Well, it's on a polo field actually. Oh. So the polo fields are run by Guards Polo. Because it's just near the Windsor Park. They've got, obviously, a Michelin star restaurant, F&B, spa. Yeah. What else do they have? Yeah, that's enough, isn't it?
It's massive.
It's
250 acres.
Equestrian. So you can do the equestrian round. 240 acres, beautiful wildflower meadow. It's stunning. You didn't...
That's... Okay, so the next question is best hospitality experience.
Do you know, I was thinking about this one when you sent it. And
I don't send in advance. Don't tell them the secrets.
Oh, okay.
Shh.
Let's
No,
edit. Okay, I'm going to tell you one which always trumps people, and people say it's not hospitality, but I think it is. When I lived in Dubai, I used to travel a lot, probably 2 or 3 times a week. And I think the way Emirates or Dubai, whichever you want to call it, have got their airport experience down to a T is something that everybody should look at and go, how do you make something that's really process driven in terms of getting through to an aeroplane into such a seamless experience is phenomenal.
So is it the same even if you don't do business?
I never used to do business.
Oh.
No, I was never lucky enough. But I used to fly quite a bit, so I used to get decent privileges. But yeah, it's pretty good as well. I mean, listen, they've got security down to a T. When you go up to the airport, there's always plenty of desks going on. I think
So they don't have strikes every other week then?
No, that's probably the biggest one. You know, the way that you can get through. But let's talk about the business experience because it is like seamless. So, you know, if you go business on Emirates, you get the car, you pull up at the airport, you go in through the private things. If you're a member, you can go through the business class kind of system. That's why I know what we're doing. So you go through a security, which literally is like you fly through, then you go in your own lift up to the lounge. Wow. The lounge is on a different floor, and on that floor is an entrance to each gate. Wow. So you're not queuing with the turn rights, unless you're someone like me. And you literally get a lift straight down to the galley, and then you walk onto the plane. Like, it's so seamless.
Yeah, they've done it well.
So well. It's just, you know, when you just look and think, it's such a process, isn't it, going through the air? Like, you go through Heathrow.
Yeah, it's painful. It's painful.
It's such a disaster.
I went away last summer, and we were like, let's just. I think the to go business was just a tiny bit more. Yeah. Got there. And then there's like 3 little business class desks, and no one was there. They were like, you can self-check in if you like.
So, do you know what I always hate at Heathrow as well? Is when you queue and then they make you scan your boarding pass, but they never tell you to do it when you've been queuing for ages. But when you like walk through,
there's 3 things that have just been opened, and you're still queuing down that way.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just,
So my wife's quite clever. Her eyes are open, and she'll be like, what's happened over there? And then she'll disappear, and then call me and said, oh, the gate's open. I'm in the front.
Yeah.
So straight through.
Yeah.
And it's hard with kids, right?
Yeah.
You got little ones too.
Yeah, but sometimes you try and use them to your advantage, don't you? You like give them a kick so they start crying or something like that. And you're like, oh, come on, I've got to get them through.
But, fell over back. Okay. Yeah. All right. Next one, before we start getting in depth, is best piece of tech.
Oh, this is other than captive Wi-Fi.
Oh, thanks.
Do you know, I'm going to give the guys at Tenzo a shout out here.
Nice.
I'll tell you why. I worked for a global investment business, as you know. We worked together there. We were managing quite a lot of restaurants, and everyone was on different tech because our whole model was about acquiring different businesses. And the only way we could really keep on top of it was by consolidating data into one place so that our central team had one place to go to see everyone. And then also, more importantly, our site operators only had one platform to go to see their data, because what we were finding is people were going onto the platforms to do what they needed to do, but they weren't engaging with it. The minute we put Tenzo in there and made it easy for them, automated reports, we just found that engagement with results were far easier to get people enjoyable about.
I think the interesting thing with that is that one, if you've got different tech in different locations, they're already plugged in, right? So I think that's a good one, Christian. You can send him the check later, or a discount on the next 10 customers.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I think that's a good one. Okay, that's a good piece of tech. Okay, so origins in hospitality. When did it start? This is my question. How you fell in love with hospitality, and at least one funny or interesting story? Where did it begin?
Well, let me take you back. No. I started in hospitality when I was 16.
Okay.
And I worked at a hotel in Leeds called the Queen's Hotel. And the reason I worked there was because at the time they were paying £5 an hour, which was the best salary you could get in Leeds at the time. And I guess, that was the driver. I was a silver service waiter. I had like the big spoon and fork. Mum and Dad still got it now. It comes out every Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And
Did you have the trays as well? With
Yeah, I used to know. Once upon a time, I don't know, but once upon a time, I used to know every single napkin fork going. You know, we used to do it all, the little silver platters and clearing on your arms and things like that. So yeah, it was cool, and I was taken under my wing by like 4 or 5 older ladies, like late 50s, 60s, and they really taught me a lot about don't be a little shit. And like they used to kick my ass more than the manager did. And it was my first entry into hospitality. And you know what? We had a banqueting room, 500 people, and I just loved the adrenaline. I loved chefs shouting when it came to like service and stuff like this. And at the time, because it was one of the best hotels in the centre of Leeds, it used to do all these like sporting dinners and stuff like that. So you used to get to meet all these sportsmen and what have you. And it was just from that moment on, I was hooked.
Quick favour here. I'm just taking a quick break on the podcast just to say I would really appreciate if you can click the like or subscribe button. That helps us grow. We're very new and I would really appreciate it. And on with the show.
Then, you know, I wanted to be a graphic designer at school, but didn't do very well. Kind of going into A levels, so I was sitting there going, okay, well, I want to go to uni, but I'm not sure what I want to do. And then hotel management came up on this thing at Sheffield Hallam Uni, and I was like, okay, maybe we'll do that. I quite enjoy what I'm doing. And ever since then, I've been in the industry, and that's been it.
You're a bit of... Can I ask a question? For helping you deal with people, working hospitality at that young age, do you think it helped you deal with not difficult people, but actually grounded you in talking to people? Because some people find it very challenging, you know, go into an environment, go to a group of people, go into a room. But I think if you've done some work in hospitality, it forces you to adjust how you communicate.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I always remember when I did my placement year at the Marriott Grosvenor Square, and I remember the assistant restaurant manager, who was German, sitting down with me and my tutor having like my first ever review. And he said, you can tell when he's nervous because he mumbles a lot. And it's true. Like I go very Yorkshire and like started mumbling. People didn't really understand me. And I guess from there, having to speak to people, having to go out of your comfort zone, having to deal with people who like you're probably not going to meet in normal circles. I guess it does mean that you get conversations about you and your personality a lot more than maybe you might do in other jobs and roles. So it's I think you're probably right with that. I think you're probably right, and I think
it's a good grounding. I think
100%. And I think even now as you go, because we're such a demanding industry, and I worked 5-star hotels early part of my career, so it's quite demanding in terms of quality and all the rest of it. I guess you hold to much higher standards than you might be in other roles, other sectors, etc., etc. So I guess you're probably being analysed quite a bit more than you would do somewhere else.
I think it makes you change in a better way.
Yeah,
because I think it's definitely very interesting speaking to people who've been in hospitality, and I used to do parties and events as well. So always dealing with difficult people is a challenge. And then so after that, where afterwards?
So I did uni, worked at London Marriott Grosvenor Square, went back up to Leeds because I had a season ticket at Leeds and didn't want to give it up. True story. Got a job working for De Vere Hotels, so golf resort, just outside Leeds. And there it was where I probably got my first big break, because I had a GM called Sean Boyce who saw something in me that others didn't, made me food and beverage manager. I think it was about 25, 26, something like that.
That's pretty awesome.
And then all of a sudden, Malmaison came in and bought De Vere. And then we had the big boys from Mal come in, and we did full refurb of the whole hotel. Our hotel was like the pilot of what they wanted De Vere to become. And I was part of the process of changing every single outlet, the creative process, the pre-opening, the launch, ongoing.
At 26, or you live at
26, yeah. And and then I was there I was there 6 years all in all, got to deputy GM, so number 2. But with that was my first experience of opening restaurants, looking at strategies, concept development.
And I guess the challenge of restaurant F&B in hotels.
Yeah. Although it was back, I guess this is going back now, 2006? So it was a country house hotel as well. It had been there for a while. It was pretty established. So it was probably a nice, easy one to get into. But I guess the hotels that I worked in, I guess we can come to it later, but I was very lucky that I always worked in great hotels with amazing F&B. There was high volume, and we didn't have some of the struggles that we probably facing today as well. But, yeah.
Okay. And then pack up and move to Dubai?
Oh, no, that came after a while. So, no, after there, I opened a new hotel in York, 5-star hotel in York, which was really surreal because it's where my mum's side of the family are from. So it was a bit surreal for me to go to York and do that. Then I moved to Coworth Park. We got the Michelin star there when John Campbell was chef. Worked there for a couple of years. Then opened the Intercom Westminster, which is now Conrad St. James in Green Park. And I was there 3 years, hotel manager. And then I got the call, to go to Dubai. And I'd kind of lost my way a little bit with hotels. We'd gone through the rebrand from Intercom to Conrad. It was real messy for everyone, owner, team, guests, everything was a mess. And lost faith a little bit with that like franchise managed side of it, and got to hotel manager. I was managing room side of things, security, engineering, and I realized that I loved F&B and restaurants, and I knew there was a potential on what I could do in hotels as an F&B director. I could go to probably bigger operations, but it's same four walls moving around. So I was speaking to a guy who was pretty much a mentor at the time, Simon, who we obviously know, and he was like, "You want to be in restaurants, and I'm opening an office in Dubai. Why don't you come and be an ops director?" So I'd always wanted to move abroad. Always wanted to put myself out of my comfort zone. Me and the wife had just got married, so it was kind of like the best time just before we had kids and blah blah blah. So we moved to Dubai. We were there 5 years. Probably still would be today if things hadn't changed and we hadn't come back at the time as well. But amazing.
That's amazing. What was her when you came home and went, "Bo, we were packing up and going to Dubai"?
Do you know what I have? I'm going to get some brownie points. I have the most amazing wife who probably her worst trait is that she always says yes to me anyway, often.
Not when you close the door.
Not when I close the door, no. So do you know what? She was just like, "Okay, if this is something you want to do, it sounds like fun, let's go do it." Listen, she was, we lived in an amazing city and we got to experience some amazing stuff and travel and bits and pieces. So it was really cool. But we did that. We had, with 5 years, we went there with 4 suitcases, came back with 2 kids and a house to go with it. So
amazing. Okay. So next question is Auden. The name I'd like to know more about, but like you were doing stuff already. You had the opportunity to do consulting and other bits and bobs, or go find something. What was the bit like where, okay, right, so I'm now here. Let's go do this. Let's create a voice, because you do shine a light on F&B in hotels, and it's a big light that needs to be shined right now anyway. But how did that happen? Where did it come from?
So I was similar to the experience I had in hotels, where I realised I wanted to be F&B and not hotels. I got to COO of this investment business, and I was sitting in the boardroom all the time talking to the CEO and talking to the investment guy. And my role was keeping the 16 brands we had on track to their 5-year business plan, because the whole cycle was 5 years and then turn them over. So I was talking more upwards and less downwards. And the bit that I really love is the bit that the creativity, the operations, being in the nooks and crannies. So it got to that little point in my career again where it was a bit like I'm at a bit of a crossroads where I'm not doing what I love.
You want to get your hands dirty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd been with the business 7 years. It was the right time to go. It was just one of those things. Best intention to just like take a month out. It'd been pretty intense after COVID and everything, as you know. And I was kind of walking around parks in London going, what shall I do? Going for different interviews. And I was kind of hearing the same different walls. At the time, a couple of people I knew knew I wasn't doing anything, and I was doing some bits on the side for them. And I just got this desire for the first time to go, do you know what? You have an amazing opportunity right now where there's nothing hinging on this if you go, because you've already gone. Try and do something for yourself. First time ever. So set up Auden, and at the time when I set it up, it was very much around helping anyone. I would have done anything. I would have taken anything. I thought I could make an impact on restaurants, hotels, QSR, you name it, I could have had an impact, because I've been there and I've been very lucky that I've been able to work in pretty much all of the sector. And it went well for about 6 or 7 months, and then everything just dried up. And I was sitting there I think it was December the first year, thinking, do you know what? I've been in this position where I don't have any business, and what do I do? What's going to go next? I knew it would be hard, but this was scary. And it was one of those things of like, what do you specialize in? What can you talk about, and what can you really niche down on to stand out from the crowd and have a point of difference? And I started speaking to a few people I knew and just leaning off them and secretly trying to tap them up for business is what I did. And
it's all about relationships, right?
Yeah, 100%. And all of them were saying, listen, where you've got a huge opportunity is you've worked in hotels, so you understand everything about breakfast, room service, meetings, all these functional bits of F&B. But you've worked in independent restaurants, and these guys are the ones who are leading the pack right now. And I was just kind of sitting there going, yeah, totally. Like, if more hotels thought like restaurateurs, I think we'd have a lot more great hotel F&B. So that's where we got to the F&B inside hotels. And I was like, okay, let's test this out on LinkedIn. I was already posting daily anyway. Yeah. Let's test this out on hotel. Who's
the one that told you to post daily? Is there someone that said you need to make sure you post daily, or is it just a...
There was a really great guy at the start of the Auden journey who I'd been friends with through the Burnt Chef project anyway, called Jim Taylor. He's based in Vancouver. And he was doing a call with me, and he said, what are you going to do for marketing? And I did all the classic, we're going to try and get press, we're going to do agencies, blah, blah, blah. And he went, stop. He was like, I tried that and I lost a load of money. Yeah. This is what I do. Yeah. And he said, try it for 90 days, posting every single day. Get yourself into a rhythm, into a habit, and see what happens. Yeah. And that's what I did. It was like, okay, not spending money was a good thing, apart from the premium package. So that was great. So I was like, let's try it. And started doing it. And it just gathered traction and was doing all right when it was like more around I'll do anything type thing. But it was really, looking back now, it was really hard to kind of really get posts meaning something because of it. So yeah, I was already posting every day on LinkedIn, and then it was a bit like, let's try it, see if I get a reaction. If I get a reaction, maybe there's something there. And I started posting about F&B in hotels, just what my perception was and stuff.
But I think you also asked questions as well to get that interaction into people, because I think you didn't just post about it, you actually asked. I don't know if that's more recent or not, but you were starting to say, what do you, how are you doing it?
Yeah, do you know why? Because the people I hated the most when I worked in hotels was consultants. Yeah. And restaurants, to be honest. Because a lot of them just come in, tell you what's wrong with your business, and they'll either do a report and go, or they'll create a nice manual and then they'll go. And it drives me insane, because it's okay telling people what the challenges are or what the opportunities are. But if they could do them, they'd do it themselves. They won't be paying you to do it. No. So my whole thing with hotel guys is I'm not your average consultant. I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. First of all, I operate restaurants in London, and that's always stayed true to my heart in terms of what I'm doing at Auden, is that when hoteliers now or restaurateurs sit opposite a table with me and go, food cost is high, talent's difficult, it's really expensive, utilities are crazy, blah, 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 blah. I can sit there and go, I know. Yeah, because I'm seeing it in restaurants I operate as well. So, so that's the first one, is I operate, so I understand. And I think it makes a massive difference to people to understand that I'm not just a consultant who wants to do fancy manuals and then go. The second one is when we come and do a strategy, or when we come and look at what opportunities are there, we don't want to just do the manuals and hand them over. We want to stay involved, because that's the bit. If you go back to the bit why I left hotels and I left the investment office, which was nice and cushy on Dover Street, is because I want to be involved and I want to make an impact. So we want to see it all the way
change,
through.
Right?
Yeah,
Positive
we want to
change.
see it all the way through.
Yeah.
We want to see it after. And then afterwards, what we say to them is, for a period of time, we'll stay around as like brand guardians and support your team making decisions about changes moving forwards. And then when it gets to a point where we're not needed, we go, thank you very much. You can do it on your own. Like, you don't need us. We're not trying to be there longer than we need to. But we also don't want to just do the nice glitzy bit that doesn't really come with any real
it looks
challenges.
Great and then falls off.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I don't know what was the original question. I've lost my chain of thought because we got into that. But yeah, I think it's really important that that's what it is, and we do things different. And I got a really good reaction on LinkedIn when I went in on hotels, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And honestly, since I went all in hotels, started working back in that environment, the business has gone on a good trajectory.
Yeah. Just a quick one to interrupt the podcast here. If you have the opportunity and you are free on Wednesdays or Fridays at 6 p.m. UK time, there is an awesome group called Digital Hospitality on LinkedIn. If you do a search for Digital Hospitality or Cali Barbecue Media, we need more people from the UK to come and join us. Really great community. Would love to see you guys there. Lots of guys from the US, some people from here, hospitality leaders. It'd be great if you could join us, and look forward to seeing you there. LinkedIn Live.
And we're working with some amazing
And where
people.
did Auden come from? What's the name?
I've opened 4 hotels, right? In those 4 hotels that I opened, there was one meeting I purposely missed on every single one of them. It was the one that named the suites and the conference rooms, because I used to hate it. It was so emotional. Like, everyone had an opinion. There was no right answer. They used to drive me insane. So I never used to go to them. So when it came to doing my own business, I was like, all I know is I don't want it to be my name. Yeah. I don't want anything to do with that. So I had a branding agency who did the branding, because I wanted the look and feel to feel right. Yeah. And I was like, go away and think of names. I don't want it cheesy. I don't want it really obvious. It's hospitality. Like, it doesn't need to be
because it can be anything.
Yeah, but it has to have a meaning. Yeah. Otherwise, it's nothing. So they came back with a few, and there's a few ropey ones. I should have looked it up, really. But the meaning of Auden is old friend. Oh. And the reason we picked that was, who do you turn to in the time of need? Yeah. It's your oldest friend. Yeah, but not only that, it's all about, in hospitality, I think Chris and Tech on Toast says, I think 85% of people recommend. Yeah. So from their friends and from others. So I think it's a really good point. I should steal that stat.
Yeah,
that's a LinkedIn post.
It's very
definitely
good.
But you know, it's funny. Like, I didn't see.
He's already thinking about LinkedIn posts.
Always content create. But I didn't. I never thought about the name necessarily until about 6 weeks ago. I was with Elizabeth Doss from Digital Hospitality. She was doing some gifts for me, and she was like, "What does Auden mean?" Yeah, and I told her, and she was like, "That's an amazing story." She was like, "We should make a gift." You need to. To be fair, he's told about it now. You should talk about it more, because I didn't know, and the origins is a really good post as well. Yeah, so it's really good, isn't it? I'll do a snippet for you on Opus. Yeah, and then you can repost Definitely. It. I've got Elizabeth actually doing some captive stuff for us. It's very cool. Do you know what? She's amazing. Awesome. She's amazing. Everyone check her out, because she's really amazing, and she doesn't know how good she is. No. And I launched my gifts on Giphy now probably about 9-10 weeks ago. I've had 1.5 million views of my brand. Like, just to confirm, just to let everyone here know that Giphy is plugged into most of the social media networks. So when people are searching for a GIF on your iPhone or on your Android, and you type in something, it references Giphy, so you actually get a much greater reach. But it's Izzy Inc. What's izzyinc.com? I think you should put it in the show notes. I'll put it in the show notes. People who know what they're doing say when they can't think. But do you know, it's funny, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into those gifts in terms of keywords and searchability and stuff like that. I didn't realise you had to create a specific account. Anyway, it's like 1.5 million views of my things, and one client. Wow. Yeah. So that's just goes to show, like, think differently, try and position your brand differently, and people will Well, I quite like it. I'll post a little video that she did about responding on LinkedIn with the Giphy, which is good. Okay, on to the next. The future of hospitality technology.
What do you think the future of hospitality, hotel tech, or F&B tech, or it could be just restaurant, but what do you think the future? Because I think that hotels are really far behind. Like restaurants are getting up there. Retail's way ahead. Like Shopify is just next level. Tesco, retail Tesco supermarkets have been doing Club Card for the last 20 years. And only recently more loyalty is coming in. Where do you see the future for, well, I mean, hotels are a challenge because you've got both sides, right? Like I looked at the London and they've got 8 outlets.
Yeah.
I mean, just mental.
Yeah. And I think, do you know what the problem, I had this conversation with a hotel group actually 2 weeks ago, 6 hotels. And the natural thing to do is they go for all the legacy tech. And the legacy tech is fine, it's stable, it's never going to break. But flexibility is zero. And now I think back to the question is flexibility and being able to be agile and being able to pivot your tech is so important. What's great today, what's best in class today isn't in a year. Yeah. So I think, the other thing these legacy tech guys do, which, probably everyone listening to this has faced, is huge contracts. So it really makes it,
some of them are crazy.
Like 3 years minimum, tying you in. And, there's people who get you on rolling 12-month contracts, so your notice is 12 months.
Yeah, and with 3 months. Yeah, with 3 months before the 12 months. To, yeah.
And you always realise on the day you're supposed to, so it's...
but you're the one going, actually, just a reminder.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Send that email.
So I think hotels have a huge opportunity to look at things differently and look at tech differently and look at it as an enabler, which I think everyone should do the same. Look at it as an enabler to help your team do what they do best, which is be on the floor serving guests. And where do I think tech's going in the space? You're going to have more intelligent people about tech on this show than me. But from my side, I think it's about giving the guests and the teams convenience to do what they want to do at the time they want to do it.
Yeah.
And if I go into that in a bit more detail from a guest perspective, look at like QR ordering, look at like getting onto the internet, all those different things that come quite easy can be quite difficult in hospitality.
I've been to some hotels with some really challenging Wi-Fi logins, not using our system.
Exactly. No, but it's true. Yeah. And honestly, the worst Wi-Fi in London is in hotels.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I go in some hotels and just walk straight back out again because you just can't even get on Zoom or Google.
Even to the point, some Hilton hotels, you can't log in unless you're a Hilton Honors member.
Yeah, it's bonkers. So it's, we were in Miami once on holiday and I stayed at the W on South Beach and I was a Marriott Bonvoy member and all the rest of it. And they charged me $25 for the Wi-Fi a night. Right? A night.
Wow. How long ago was this, though?
Oh, don't worry about that. It's the story that counts.
Okay.
But the best bit about it was we got the big bus around, the open-top bus thing, and it had free Wi-Fi. So for 49 quid, I got free Wi-Fi on the bus that goes around using 3G. But in my hotel, where I was paying a fortune for the room, I had to pay $25. So, Wi-Fi. I don't know why hotels don't get it right. But
I think some of the newer ones, I've been to a couple of new ones. So we work with the Broadwick Hotel, and they're in Soho, beautiful hotel. Theirs was just open, and I chatted with them about putting something in, and it was just open. And there's a new hotel, I think the One Berkeley is humongous.
Yeah.
I was in there the other day, and they had, no word of a lie, probably 200 people in all different F&B areas. It's just open. I mean, 20% people are staying there. Anyway, the Broadwick put it in, and I've never seen so much data collected ever. And it's only connecting once. We let for us, we've let them have the session open for like a week. So if you go out for dinner and then come back, you don't have to have that horrible relog in. I was on holiday last summer in Tenerife, and I was crying because I was being kicked out the whole time and had to relog in the whole time.
It's I always look at, exactly, and I always look at hotels and think, if you go stay at a hotel, it should be equal or better than what you have at home. Yeah. And Wi-Fi lets, the amount of times I go somewhere and I can't get on the Wi-Fi, can't Zoom or whatever. But again, back to the original question, I think the convenience thing is key. QR ordering in room service, all that type of thing. If you're not doing it,
what do you think about the hotels using the app for communication? Because that's happening more now. So you either download the app, you can sort of order on the app. Some of it was a bit clunky, but the communication piece, like the hotel I stayed at, was a lovely hotel. There was an app. I could order whatever sort of like version of a pillow I wanted on the app, but I couldn't call reception because they were too busy.
I know.
So you're right. I think
it's convenience, right?
Yeah.
Like everything's on our phones nowadays, and if you don't do, this is what I say to people about QR ordering in room service. If you don't make room service really, really easy, they'll order delivery.
Yeah.
Simple.
And that's happening loads.
Yeah, 100. Every time I'm at a hotel, people's like Just Eat, Uber Eats, whatever's like delivering through the door.
Waiting at reception.
Exactly. And you know, like if you look at the stats, like Angus at
the revenue they must be losing must be mental.
And if you look at the stats, like average check increase, order uptake increase. And you can control, you know, all that money you're spending on the tags for breakfast, get rid of it because you can pre-order on the app. It'll send the check at the right time to the kitchen. All of that stuff makes it easier. We have a client in Surrey. They have an outdoor swimming pool. Yeah. And the biggest complaint that was coming from member survey was queues. Yeah. It's a no-brainer. Treat it like a beach club. Yeah. Put a QR code 100%. On every single bed. Yeah. And deliver food to the table. But
they would do QR to order and then add it to their room rather than the order at pay, blah, blah, blah. I think the challenge with some hotels, they're very much like, they think it's a Nando method. It's very much like, oh, I'm going to charge them in advance. Do they?
They do. And they sit there and go, it's not, okay. I work a lot in upper 4-star, lower 5-star. It's not 5-star. And I always sit there and go, rubbish. Yeah. What is true hospitality? True hospitality is making memorable experiences for guests. And if that person's memorable experiences, it was really easy to order room service, they'll probably come back and stay. Because if I'm on late calls to the US, for example, I'll order room service on the QR code because I want it to arrive by the time the call's finished. I won't be able to do that if there wasn't a QR in the room. Yeah. So this is back to my point about offering convenience to people, is if your guests are doing it outside the hotel, what makes you think you can dictate what they're doing inside? It's bullshit. They need to look at how they can make it as easy as possible, and the stats that go with it kind of go with it. So I think the other thing, and I want to give
but then there's technology barriers, isn't there?
Well, this is back to this legacy tech, right? But there is standalone, like Me and You, standalone, really, really good. Angus at StoreKit has a great solution as well for a standalone thing as well. So there is people there. Like we've been talking to both StoreKit and Me and You for the one in Surrey because they're on a legacy tech that doesn't really integrate very well.
Standalone printer in the kitchen.
100%. Yeah. And all right, it's a bit of a job for the accounts guys to reconcile and bits and pieces, but the way we looked at it was the maths definitely added up. But I think the other thing as well is, if we're talking about hospitality tech, but giving Captive a push here is, I think moving forwards, personalization is going to be really key. Massive. And I think there's never been a more important time to build profiles in F&B as there has now. And that's for any restaurant. Like building profiles, getting your reservation system to know your customers is so key. And any way you can do that with stuff that's dialing in to give you frequency of visits, to give you more names, more email addresses is going to be key. I was doing an interview today for Institute of Hospitality.
Yeah, IoT.
And one of the questions to them was, do you think it's more challenging to get people nowadays? And I was like, yeah 100%. Massive. Like, you've never had to work as hard now to get people as you ever have before. So anything you can do to give you a superpower. Yeah. And if we start talking about AI coming through, that's going to know more about your customers than you are. To me, that's the problem. Massive. And I think you have to get your
I think the other challenge you have is because if you're looking at hotels and F&B, you've got all the OTAs, you've got no information. So, and the funny thing is that if you some of the hotels I spoke to were like, yes, but when they come in, they fill out the form. And I said, there's probably 3% of people that tick the box for marketing. So that's your 3%. And then someone who comes in to eat for the restaurant might not stay in the hotel. And 25% people opt in for the reservations. Yeah. So keeping the Wi-Fi open is just crazy.
Well, do you know the other thing as well that I was thinking about actually when I saw your post on LinkedIn about Zoomer and the video, is one of the other issues that I faced quite a bit in hotels is there's very little signposting in the hotels about the restaurants and bars. Yeah. And it's because they don't want to put things in lifts and signs. Yeah. And I get it, right? 100%. When I was an operator, I've never have done that either. So I think any opportunity you can get where you can grab attention is so important. we all know that these branded websites are terrible as well, so
Yeah.
they don't sell your F&B. I was doing a review on a hotel a couple of weeks ago by one of the big brands, and they didn't even have like a book now or anything on their website. So I think if you can, stuff like Captive, where you can put videos, you can sell the dream, you can really engage the guest.
Their attention, right? 10 seconds.
100%. And it's super important because we know the stigma around hotel F&B and going to the guys down the road. And the other thing I always say to hoteliers is like, give me your concept.
Yeah.
And they'll give me the hotel concept. I don't want your hotel concept. I want your restaurant concept.
Yeah.
And they'll like, give me the other hotels that have got good F&B.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the rooms, but it'll be hotels. I'll go, it's wrong. I said, why? I mean, because it's the guy down the road. That's who you're competing with.
Yeah.
If you don't think you're competing with Starbucks or Grind or Watch House,
100%.
because that's where people are going now instead of hotel lobbies, because they've got plugs on every seat.
Yeah.
It's nice and comfy. The seat heights are the right height for Zoom.
I hadn't thought about what you've just said, but you're absolutely right. If you take the concept of, okay, so Grind or whatever, you go there, there's plugs everywhere, there's ordering, there's people walking around. It's just similar to hotels, but you walk into a generic hotel, there's no plugs there to plug into.
Yep.
There's crap Wi-Fi. There's no one looking around. I think if they can just fix those three things, I mean, it's a game changer. You keep them there. The whole idea is is to keep them internal.
They're all there.
Yeah.
And that's before we get to the biscuit on the tea. What's that? The biscuit on the tea drives me nuts. The seats are too low, the table heights are too low or too high, so it's really uncomfortable. The Wi-Fi's shit, and whatever else we just said. But the biscuit makes it all okay. That's going to make me stay.
I love the bit biscotti.
Well, maybe, but then not when you can't do your Zoom and you have to go to Starbucks anyway. You know what I mean? So it's just like little bits like that where it's just like embrace the madness.
Embrace the madness. Just move forward. But it's hard pulling them out, right? Because they've been like that for years.
Yeah.
So I think do you sometimes take them to another client and go, right, come look how this is done, or advise them to go see X? Because you get sales and beverage, you get sales and marketing. It's weird because sales and marketing isn't anything to do with marketing, right? No. It's just that weird title. And it sounds like sales and marketing, but I've spoken to sales and marketing, and they're just sales.
Yeah.
What's the deal?
Do you know, when I run F&B in hotels, I always had my own marketeer.
Yeah.
Because hotel marketeers are different to F&B marketeers. Massive. That's one of the things I learned being in restaurants, especially. But I always used to have my own. Because I was a bit of a control freak and liked to be the villain of my own destiny. But back to the thing, I don't take people to other hotels that are doing it well, to be honest. Yeah. I take them to independents or groups.
Nice.
And I say, how can you do some of what's great about this experience and how can we do it where you are?
Okay.
So when we did the one in Surrey, we did an Aussie-inspired cafe. We picked some of the amazing cafes around central London. The owner went to them and did his research and was like, I get it. So then when there's a couple of things there. One, they kind of buy into what your vision is. But two, when you start trying to push the boundaries on menu development, concept development, they kind of get it because they've already experienced it.
You've sent them to the right places to understand. Because I think other people would be like, oh, we're going to have this menu. Here you go. And they look at it and they go, what's this to do with?
Yeah, so we don't put comp sets in. When we're doing a strategy and when we're doing
comp set.
Competitor set. Sorry, we're joking.
That's all right.
But we don't put a competitor set in any of our documents.
Yeah.
What we do is benchmarks.
Oh, okay.
So to me, a comp set is you're just going to follow the pack. You're not going to lead the pack. Whereas if it's a benchmark, you go, okay, that's the benchmark. How can I be better? The mindset's just completely different. So we never put comp sets in there. We always put benchmarks and we go, okay, this is the benchmark of the concept. How can we deliver the same, if not better? And what is our USPs that sit alongside these to make us a benchmark of them?
Yeah.
It's just a different...
And then when you do your chase up or catch up and reviews, I'm sure they're putting out finance sitting there and they're like, either they're happy or they're not happy. But I think if you get it right, it's going to be easy for them. Does it make their life easier once they put the technology in place?
It definitely makes the life easier.
Yeah.
It's just adoption, isn't it? Which you'll
I
probably...
think Chris, I spoke to Chris Fletcher the other day and he changed management.
Yeah.
It sucks so hard. Great idea, but without you, for example, coming in, they go, we're going to roll this out. But it's not done properly. It's an idea that hasn't been planned and
Which is why a lot we recommend the same things so that we can help.
Yeah.
And it's often the things we're using in the restaurant that we operate as well, because it just makes it easier when you can show them the back end of your platforms that you're using and they can see the benefits.
Well, there's a big difference. If you're there operating, then you can show them it. It's different, as you said. If you're a consultant that's coming in, showing them the pretty things, or you can go back and go, actually, this is what we did and this is how it worked.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, the other thing is, like, you've got to, when it comes to EPOS and inventory and stuff like that, it's fairly, for me, going with the same people every time, you can help, you know the pitfalls and the advantages. I think other parts of text, like reservation systems and stuff like that, has to be very bespoke and unique. And what we generally do is we go, okay, we work with X, Y, Z. This is why we'd go for one over the other. And it just depends. Like, we'll use 7 rooms if we know we're going to drive loads of traffic through our own website, and then maybe we'll use 2 or 3 like partners that integrate. But if it's a restaurant, so we use 7 rooms in one of the Harry Hotel that we use, that's there because of that strategy. Yeah. But in Red Farm, the one that we operate, we use OpenTable because it's tourist driven. Massively. So it's massively driven through people going through the network.
I spoke to someone about, I was at my last meeting, and she brought up your website and was like, oh, look at the sushi, not sushi, but it was like the little picture.
The Pac-Man dumplings.
Yeah, the Pac-Man dumplings. She goes, that's amazing. Awesome. Just came out. I didn't push it. I didn't tell her about it. She just told me about it.
Awesome. So, well, it's good to know. But yeah, so we use OpenTable because it's largely driven through tourists, and that's the most obvious one. It's the one that hits top of Google. So we go with those for a very different reason. So again, I think there's some bits of tech that you have to personalize. Yeah. And there's other bits that it can be just pretty generic and you can help people through. In hotels, we'll let out a few secrets. So we use Lightspeed a lot for EPOS. They integrate into, I think it's like 10 different PMS systems, so front office systems.
What's your favourite PMS?
Favourite PMS? Oh, do you know what? To be honest, I never get involved in it. And I was deputy GM of 3 hotels, and I never knew how to check someone in. Because
someone else did it.
Someone else did it. No, but you know, it's an interesting point that I've never known the granular details of any system that I've worked on, apart from when I was like bars manager and it was my role to manage inventory. And I'll tell you why. Because 1, I didn't have the time. But more importantly, 2, I think naivety makes you ask more questions. And it makes you challenge things more. Yeah. So if you don't know how someone got to a result they got to, I think by asking the questions and challenging people as a senior leader, I think it helps you get
100%
to the detail more.
Always a challenge. I was told by, funny enough, Dan Houghton, he's now a data scientist, he used to have Chilango. He said to me a long time ago, there's 3 whys. There's always 3 whys. It's the question of the 3 whys. If someone says to you, I couldn't check the guest in because there was this wrong, but why? Oh, because the software wouldn't let me. But why wouldn't the software let you? Because this crashed. But why did it crash? Oh, because IT told me I need new. Yeah. There's always 3 things for it, which I find really interesting. Telling everyone about that, because there's always other reasons behind it. It's not just the one, is it?
No, and do you know what? That is definitely a brilliant takeaway, because it's so true that asking why. I mean, it's the same thing of like, it's how annoying is it whenever you ring customer service at like in the old days where we had hardwire and stuff. Yeah. And you ring them up and they'd be like, have you turned it off and on again? You'd be like, fuck, sorry, can we swear?
You can swear.
Okay. Where was that? Oh, yeah. You'd be like, Jesus Christ, what do you mean? I've turned it on and off again. It's not working. Then they'd be like, have you tested the Ethernet? Shit. Like, but if they didn't go through those simple processes and went straight to the
I've got one better for you. This is a good one. Someone calls, this isn't mine. Someone calls the help desk and says, my computer's not working. And they go, okay, so have you restarted? Yeah, 5-6 times. How have you restarted it? Turn the button on off. But where have you turned the button on? The screen. I've turned the button off on the screen. And they go, where have you? Sorry, there's a computer under your desk. This is when they had towers. There's a big box under your desk. Have you restarted that one? What's that? That's your computer. Yeah. And they restarted it, and it was perfect. Okay, so, but anyway, I digress. You're absolutely right. I think it's very interesting. That 3 whys I'll put in the show notes. Okay, last question is advice for other people starting their journey. So obviously you've got the consultancy, you've built really cool. I mean, the the journey that you've come through is awesome. The posts are really good. I mean, I wish I could get anywhere near it, but you're consistent, which is great. And I'm talking about your personal one, not all in one, because it's hard on a daily basis. What advice would you give for other people wanting to write? I'm going to go set up. So, and also looking back, what would you have done differently? So the two things: advice for people who are starting up, because this industry needs more people anyway, right? Because there are more people that can make this industry better. That we're winning. And then looking back at what would you do?
Well, do you know what let me do the looking back, because that's probably leads into the other one. Looking back, I wish I'd niched down earlier.
Yeah.
And I'd tried not to be something for everything, taken a bit more of a gamble probably, whereas actually the niching down probably was less of a gamble, and really refined what that message was. And I think my advice would be, when you've got an idea, try and take it down and down and down. And I think the further down you go, the more people can resonate to the problem you're going to solve. The more generic you get,
yes. I guess you're opening yourself up to everything, right?
Yeah,
you can target what you're good at.
Yeah, and people don't know who you are or what you are or how you can help them. So one of the things that I did when I set up my business, I looked at loads of like solopreneurs, like these content guys and stuff, like brand people. I read a book, Building a Brand Story by Donald Miller. And everything he said was, don't make your customer waste too many calories trying to understand what you do. So make it as simple as possible.
So it's the KISS method, right? Keep it simple or keep it stupid simple.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably like, what would I change? I'd have niched down far earlier. I think then you learn. Sorry, you learn, right? You will learn and adjust. So that I think not necessarily niching down, but you wouldn't have been where you are if you didn't go through those challenges. No, probably not. No,
because you could, if you've niched down, you potentially would have had less business.
Yep.
So there's two ways of schools, isn't there?
100%. I think, do you know the other thing as well is, like, don't get too emotional.
Yes.
Like, if something isn't working, just kind of be really rational, really objective. Get people around you who'll be honest with you, who'll tell you if it's a good idea, bad idea, and then change.
Yeah.
Like, be agile, pivot if you have to.
And don't be a yes person.
Don't be a yes person. Yeah, exactly. Don't be a yes person. What advice would I give to people? I guess that niching down thing I still think is important, but I agree with you. I think you
need to learn your mistakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got there. I think make sure you do. It's really when you're running an operation, you're running a restaurant. Like, everything's really structured. You know, weekly results, daily results, monthly P&Ls, etc., etc. Don't change that if you start doing your own thing. Like, stay really structured on assessing costs, assessing where revenue is coming from, having your cash flow there. All the things you would do as a restaurant operator, make sure you do for yourself, because it's really easy to fall into a trap of going, thank God for that. I don't have to do it. Like, every month I'll pull off my P&L and I'll analyse every cost and see if I've been lazy or if I've spent something I shouldn't have done, because it's just so easy when it's yours,
that wasn't me in the beginning. That was just, that's why my wife works with me and does all my operations, because thank you. I used to invoice people, when I first ever started, I was invoicing people quarterly.
Yeah.
And the hospitality industry loved that. That was probably a long time ago now, but quarterly. And I was like, I'll chase the invoice later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
No,
it's definitely true.
Bring out those reports and actually seeing what's coming. Because obviously, if you're on your own, you know, you've got to understand what's coming in as well. So I think I don't do that anymore.
Do you know, asking for money is probably the most difficult thing I do. Definitely. After business development, because I've never been sales, because I've always been ops. But asking for money, I still feel really uncomfortable with. Yeah. Which is why I kind of like I get it on zero and just send. And my wife
I'll send you the proposal, and then just, how much is it? You'll get the email from the accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the quote. Yeah. I'll send you the quote. How much is it? I need to know. You'll get it via email.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know, back to the thing, like, my wife now does like the back end of stuff on the accounts and stuff, because she has no emotion with them. So it's much easier for her to just like send an email off accounts and bits and pieces. But so, I guess really, like, stay structured in what you do. I think go on LinkedIn. Yeah. Go on social media, because it's free of charge. And before you do anything, try showing people that you know what you're talking about. Expertise. It's not easy. Like, don't do 7 days a week if you're not comfortable with it. Do 2 or 3 days a week, but just add value. Add value. Like, there's loads of other ways to do it. Like, depends which platform you want to be on. For me, I think if you've got your own business, LinkedIn is the way forward.
I think it's changed massively in the last year. Massively.
Huge. And you know, if I look at one of the regrets I have before doing my own thing, and I was interviewing a guy called Steve Turk the other week from Miami, and he started his personal brand while he was in hotels, and he ended up getting his first client because of what he was posting. And they offered him a job, and he was like, "Well, I don't want a job, but I'll be a consultant for you." And they're still working together now. I had an opportunity in COVID where I could have done that, and I focused more on the operation. At the time, I was really happy. I wasn't thinking about anything else, and I could have been a lot further along than I am now. So I think my advice would be, like, start posting, even if you're in a job, because you don't know what might come, and you don't know what job it might get you next. Just like add value to people, have some fun. Don't take it too seriously.
I love seeing little LinkedIn posts with little snippets of genius, like little nuggets. Like, some of the stuff I see is awesome. Obviously, we have to quickly touch on digital hospitality. And Sean, hi Sean, he's at the restaurant show, which we should be at, but they didn't fly us out, unfortunately. But that whole network, I think, is important, and generally a network. Even Chris at Tech on Toast and Hospitality Titans, that stuff here, I think, is really important because you learn from it, right?
Yeah, and you meet amazing people. And what you'll find is it can be quite lonely when you do your own thing, but there's lots of people who want to help or want to see the journey. And exactly, like the digital hospitality group, you know, the amount of stuff I've learned from that, the amount of people I've spoken to, the amount of connections I've got, the amount of knowledge that you pick up is just phenomenal. And that doesn't matter whether you're in a role with a business or you're setting up your own business. Like, trying to advance yourself and network is so important.
It's
and
hard as well to start, right?
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's really difficult.
We're at the end, so I'm going to give a second round of applause.
There we go. 2.
So we have the tradition, which is the 2 questions. So I have, I think I've got some coming on Thursday. I have another one. Awesome. I have another podcast coming here shortly, not today, which is, and Chris said to me, "Do you have a schedule? Do you have like a plan?" I was, what's the plan? Like, so it's as soon as I have time to do it, it will go out. But this will probably go out as now I've got a better camera that I hope's recording, but the light's on. Tradition is, I digress, the 2 questions for the next person.
Yep. All right, let's do number 1. Sean actually asks a very similar question on his Restaurant Influencers show, and it's a brilliant question, so I'm going to change it slightly and ask him. So, if you could fill an arena with 40,000 people and give a keynote on any subject, what would it be?
Okay, that's an adjustment. Okay, I
it's
like
a
that.
little adjustment.
Yeah.
And then the second one is to give 1 tip to operators on how to automate a menial task. I thought you'd like the tech side of that.
Yeah, I like that.
And I think it'll help.
So this is Scott Turner from Auden Hospitality. Thank you so much for coming.
It's been awesome.
I'm going to do another...
Thank you.
Another round of applause. You can find Scott at audenhospitality.com and on LinkedIn, and Scott Turner on LinkedIn or Auden Hospitality. I'll put it all in the show notes. But I appreciate you.
No, thank you.
And
awesome.
Okay, that's the end.